My name is Tony Sinclair. I'm 23 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I was the child my parents never had to worry about, which is another way of saying I was the child they didn't worry for. If you've ever been the responsible one in a family that rewards chaos, you know the role. You learn early how to be quiet, how to be useful, how to not take up space. You learn that asking for help only makes you look difficult, so you stop asking. You become efficient. You become invisible. My older sister, Alyssa, was the opposite of invisible. She was 3 years older and had a talent that would have impressed a casting director. She could cry on command. Not the messy, embarrassing kind. The precise kind, a shimmer in her eyes, a tremble in her voice, a perfectly timed sniffle. By the time she was 5, my parents reacted to her tears the way people react to smoke alarms, instant panic. Alyssa wanted something, and suddenly the house rearranged itself to make room. When she wanted dance lessons, my mom signed her up at the most expensive studio in town. 3 leotards, custom shoes, professional photos after every recital. My parents sat in the front row, phones out, clapping like they were watching a prodigy at Lincoln Center. When I asked for guitar lessons once, just once, my dad said, maybe next year. Next year never came. When Alyssa was 16, she wrapped my mom's car around a mailbox because she was texting her boyfriend while driving. My parents hugged her while the tow truck hauled the car away. "These things happen, sweetie," my mom said. "That's why we have insurance." 2 weeks later, I came home 10 minutes late from my weekend shift at an auto shop and got grounded for being irresponsible. The rules weren't confusing. They were selective. Alyssa skipped family dinners to hang out with friends, and my parents laughed about how popular she was. I skipped one Sunday dinner to cover a shift at work, and suddenly I didn't understand priorities and was drifting away from the family. I figured out early that complaining about the favoritism only made things worse. It made me look petty, ungrateful, difficult. So I stopped complaining. I stopped explaining. I kept my head down and became the kid who didn't need anything. Straight A's without tutoring, part-time jobs since I was 15, every paycheck carefully tracked. My parents loved telling people about their 2 daughters. Alyssa is the social one, they'd say proudly. Translation, she partied and barely passed her classes. Tony is so focused on school, they'd add. Translation, I raise myself. They said it like it was a personality difference, not the direct result of how we were treated. By senior year of high school, the contrast was impossible to miss. Alyssa was scraping by with D's, skipping class to spend time with her burnout boyfriend. I was pulling a 3.9 GPA while working 20 hours a week at Henderson's Auto Repair. Mr. Henderson was a gruff, no-nonsense man in his 60s who scared most high schoolers away within a week. I loved him immediately. No excuses, no pity. You did the work right, or you did it again. "You're one of the good ones," he'd tell me while we replaced brake pads. Coming from him, that was basically affection. Every dollar I earned went into my college fund. Not directly, first into my bank account, then transferred carefully into a 529 plan my grandfather had set up for me when I was born. Grandpa James was my mom's father, a retired engineer, a quiet observer, the only adult in my family who seemed to understand the difference between helping and enabling. When I was born, he opened that fund in my name. Every birthday and holiday, instead of toys, he deposited money. "Your parents mean well," he told me once when I was 14, lowering his voice so no one else could hear. "But they confuse love with rescue. You're going to need this." By the time I graduated high school, between his contributions and my own savings, there was just over $42,000 in that account. Not private school money, but enough to get me through a state university without drowning in debt. I'd already been accepted with a partial academic scholarship. Between that, the fund, and working part-time, I could graduate debt-free if I was careful. That was always the plan. Alyssa didn't have a plan. She dropped out of community college after one semester, bounced between retail jobs, and quit whenever she got bored. The last I heard, she worked at a boutique in the mall, mostly for the employee discount. Then, 3 weeks before I was supposed to leave for college, she showed up at a family dinner looking pale and nervous. Her boyfriend sat beside her, gripping his fork like it might save him. My mom had made pot roast. My dad pretended to care about the baseball game on TV. I just wanted to eat and get to work on time. Alyssa cleared her throat. "So, we have some news." The table went silent. "We're pregnant." She said it like she'd won something. My mom's face tried to look thrilled and horrified at the same time. My dad stared at his plate, already doing the math. I kept eating, because honestly, I'd seen this coming. Congratulations, hugs, reassurances followed. Questions too. Where would they live? How would they afford it? What about health insurance? We'll figure it out, Alyssa said, smiling. People who say that rarely do. As I drove to work that night, grease still under my nails, I had the strangest feeling. Not surprise, not anger, but certainty. I knew exactly how this would end. I just didn't realize how far my parents were willing to go. 2 days after the pregnancy announcement, my parents called what they referred to as a family meeting. In our house, that phrase was never neutral. It didn't mean discussion. It meant a decision had already been made, and I was about to be informed how I was expected to cooperate. I came home from my shift at Henderson's smelling like oil and brake dust and found my parents sitting stiffly on the couch. The TV was off. The lights were too bright. My mom's hands were folded in her lap like she was bracing for impact. "Tony," my dad said, pointing at the armchair across from them. "Sit down. We need to talk." I already knew what this was about. I just didn't know how bad it was going to get. My mom started first, her voice soft and practiced. "Your sister is going through a very difficult time right now. Becoming a mother is overwhelming. She needs support, not judgment." I waited. Dad jumped in. "A baby is expensive. Hospital bills, crib, car seat, diapers, formula. It adds up fast." "Okay," I said carefully. "And?" My mom reached over and placed her hand on mine, the way people do, right before delivering bad news. "We've been thinking," she said, "and we believe the best solution is for Alyssa to use your college fund to help get settled." For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard her. "My what?" "Your college fund," Dad repeated, calm and steady, like this was a perfectly reasonable request. "Ashley, Alyssa, needs it now. You're young. You're smart. You can work your way through school. Plenty of students do." There it was. They weren't asking. They were reallocating my future. "That money isn't for Alyssa," I said, my voice oddly steady. "It's for my education. Grandpa set it up for me. I've been contributing to it since I was 15. My mom's eyes filled instantly. Tears were her closer. "Tony, please don't be selfish. This is what family does. We help each other." "Help each other?" I almost laughed. "When has Alyssa ever helped me?" I asked quietly. "That's not the point," my dad snapped. "The point is, she needs this now. You can take out loans. You'll be fine." Loans. Years of debt, interest, stress. Also, my sister could furnish a nursery for a baby she hadn't planned, with a man who could barely pay his phone bill. "No," I said. My mom blinked, stunned. "No?" "No." Dad's jaw tightened. "You don't get to decide that." "Yes, I do. The fund may be in your name," my mom said carefully, "but until you're 25, we can access it on your behalf." That's when I stood up. "Actually," I said, "you can't." Both of them froze. When Grandpa set it up, he made sure that once I turned 18, the account transferred fully into my control. "Only me. You have zero access." The silence was incredible. My mom's mouth fell open. My dad's face flushed red. "That sneaky old—" he started, then stopped himself. "He had no right to do that without discussing it with us." "He had every right," I said. "It was never your money." Mom started crying for real this time. "Your sister really needs this. Can't you find it in your heart to help?" I looked at them. At the people who had spent my entire childhood teaching me exactly where I ranked. "Family helps each other, right?" I said. So where was that help when I asked for guitar lessons, or when I needed a ride to the science fair, or when I made honor roll every semester and no one even noticed? "That's ancient history," Dad barked. "No," I said, "it's a pattern." I walked out of the living room while my mom cried harder and my dad muttered something about respect. I went straight to my room, packed a bag, grabbed my laptop, and texted my friend Jordan. "Can I crash at your place for a few days?" "Family drama again," he replied. "Doors unlocked." Before I left, I did 3 things. First, I logged into my college fund and confirmed again that only my name was on it. Second, I transferred every single dollar into a new account at a different bank, all $42,000 and change. Third, I left a note on the kitchen counter. Since Alyssa needs the money more than I do, and working my way through school builds character, I've made things easier. The fund is gone. I'll be paying for my education myself, just like you wanted. Consider this my resignation from being the family backup plan. I didn't take my phone. I didn't say goodbye. The drive to Jordan's apartment was quiet. No tears, no shaking. Just this strange calm, like I'd finally stepped out of a rigged game. When Jordan opened the door and handed me a soda, he took one look at my face and said, They tried to take your college money, didn't they? Yeah, I said, they did. He shook his head slowly. That's not family. That's emotional hostage-taking. And for the first time in my life, someone said it out loud. Jordan's apartment wasn't much to look at. 2 bedrooms, mismatched furniture, a couch that sagged in the middle like it had given up on life sometime around 2012. But to me, it felt like a luxury hotel. No tension, no walking on eggshells, no one asking me to sacrifice myself so someone else wouldn't have to grow up. The first night, I slept for 12 straight hours. I bought a new phone the next day. New number. Only gave it to Jordan, our other roommate, Ryan, Mr. Henderson, and a couple of friends I trusted not to accidentally pass it along to my parents. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and transferred everything there. Clean break, clean slate. Mr. Henderson noticed something was different the moment I clocked in. You look like hell, he said, not unkindly. Family trouble? Something like that, I replied. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. When I got back from Vietnam, my old man wanted me to take over his hardware store. Had my whole life planned. I joined the army instead. He didn't speak to me for 2 years. Did he ever come around? I asked. Eventually, Henderson said, clapping me on the shoulder. But he had to learn I wasn't asking permission to live my life. Sometimes the best thing you can do for family is show them you're not their property. That stayed with me. Work became my anchor. Between Henderson's shop and side jobs fixing cars for neighbors, I saved aggressively. By the end of summer, I'd added another $6,000 to my account. Through Jordan's sister, who followed Alyssa on social media like it was a competitive sport, I heard my parents were losing their minds trying to find me. They showed up at Henderson's shop. He told them I'd quit and wished them a nice day. Alyssa, meanwhile, had a full meltdown when she realized the college fund was gone. She posted a long rant about selfish family members and being abandoned during her time of need. The comments were split between people enabling her and a few brave souls asking why she thought she was entitled to my education. I didn't respond. I didn't engage. The only person I explained everything to was Grandpa James. I drove out to his house one Saturday. He was in his workshop sanding a piece of wood when I walked in. Wondered when you'd show up, he said, not looking up. Your mother's called me 6 times this week. They tried to take the fund, I said. He nodded once. I figured. I told him everything. The meeting, the demand, the note, the transfer. When I finished, he smiled, not a happy smile, but a proud one. Good, he said. That fund was never meant to fix other people's bad decisions. Before I left, he handed me an envelope. Don't open this until you move into your dorm. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a note for textbooks, furniture, or whatever else you need. Proud of you. I cried in my car for 10 minutes before driving home. Move-in day at State University was chaos. Parents carrying mini fridges, moms crying, dads pretending not to. I moved in alone. No photos, no hugs, just me and my future. And honestly, it was perfect. I declared a major in automotive engineering, turned years at Henderson's into a career path, picked up a part-time job near campus, made friends, joined a classic car restoration club. That's where I met Ethan. He wasn't flashy. He listened, asked questions, didn't flinch when I talked about my family. When I told him I didn't speak to my parents, he didn't try to fix it. Sounds like you protected yourself, he said. That's not a flaw. It was the first time anyone had framed it that way. College flew by. I didn't go home for holidays. I spent them with friends, with Ethan's family, sometimes just working extra shifts and saving money. My life got quieter, cleaner, happier. I didn't think about my parents at all. Until 5 years later, when my mother called my office. And this time, her voice didn't sound like someone demanding. It sounded like someone who had finally run out of excuses. The receptionist patched the call through before I could stop her. Tony Sinclair, she said cheerfully. Your mother is on line 1. I stared at the phone like it might explode. 5 years. That's how long it had been since I'd heard her voice. 5 years since I'd walked out of that house with a duffel bag and a future I refused to let them auction off. I should have hung up. Instead, curiosity won. What do you want? I asked. There was a pause. Not the dramatic kind my mom used to deploy. This one was hesitant. Please don't hang up, she said quietly. I just need you to listen. Her voice sounded older, thinner, like it had been worn down by years of explaining things that couldn't be fixed. If this is about Alyssa, I started. It's not, she cut in quickly. Well, it is, but I'm not asking you for money, I swear. That alone threw me off. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. A coffee shop near my office. Public. Neutral. An easy exit if things went sideways. She looked smaller than I remembered. Gray threaded through her hair, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. The confidence she used to wield like a weapon was gone. We sat in silence until she finally spoke. "Your father and I are in trouble," she said. "Financial trouble." I waited. "Alyssa's been living with us since the baby was born. She and her boyfriend split up less than a year in. What started as helping with diapers and daycare turned into everything." She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like it was keeping her upright. "She had access to our accounts, credit cards. We trusted her. Over 5 years, she took nearly $180,000. I laughed. I couldn't help it. She flinched. "I know how that sounds." "You tried to take $42,000 from me," I said calmly, "and she took $180 from you." Her eyes filled. "We didn't realize until your father was forced into early retirement. When we sat down to look at our accounts, they were almost empty." "And now?" I asked. "We're going to lose the house." There it was, the moment I'd spent years preparing myself for. "And you're telling me this because?" I prompted. She shook her head. "I'm not asking you to fix it. I just wanted you to hear it from me. We were wrong, Tony, about everything." That landed harder than any apology I'd imagined. "We enabled Alyssa her entire life," she continued. "We taught her that someone else would always clean up the mess. And now, this is the mess." She stood, left cash on the table, and said, "You were right to leave." I watched her walk out and felt something loosen in my chest. A week later, my father called. "We need help," he said. "The bank's foreclosing." "You told me loans would build character," I replied. "Maybe foreclosure will do the same." He didn't have an answer for that. Alyssa called next, screaming, accusing, blaming. I blocked her. Then the lawyer called. Turns out Alyssa hadn't just taken money. She'd forged signatures, opened accounts. The court got involved. Fraud charges followed. Probation. Restitution she'd never fully repay. My parents lost the house anyway. They moved into a small apartment. Took jobs they'd never imagined working in their 60s. Alyssa got 2 jobs and learned what exhaustion actually felt like. I watched it all from a distance. Not with glee. With clarity. Life didn't explode after that. It just settled. The chaos that had defined my childhood finally burned itself out, leaving behind quiet, ordinary days. I got married to Ethan in a courthouse ceremony on a Tuesday afternoon. No spectacle, no pressure, just us, a few close friends, and the kind of calm I used to think only existed in movies. We bought a house a year later, 3 bedrooms, a garage I immediately turned into a workshop. I got promoted to lead engineer on an electric vehicle project and started making the kind of money that would have terrified my younger self, because it meant I could finally choose generosity without being forced into it. Grandpa James visited every few months. He'd wander through my workshop, ask questions, offer suggestions I didn't need, but appreciated anyway. When he passed away 2 years later, he left me his house and a note that said, "To Tony, who made something of herself without needing permission." The funeral was the first time I'd seen my parents in almost 6 years. They looked older, smaller. My mom's hair was fully gray now. My dad's suit looked borrowed. They didn't approach me, just nodded from across the room. Later, in the parking lot, my mom caught up to me. 2 minutes, I said. "We're doing better," she told me. "Working, paying bills, learning." "Good," I said. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $1,000. "From selling your grandfather's tools," the note said. "He would have wanted you to have this." I deposited it into a new college fund I'd opened for my future kids. 3 years later, Ethan and I had our son. We named him James. My parents sent a card, a small savings bond, no demands. Alyssa sent a text apology. I read it. Save the number under blocked. Last month, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a wooden toy car, hand-carved, smooth, carefully made. A note in my dad's handwriting said, "Made this in a woodworking class. No pressure to respond." The wheels turned perfectly, and that's how I knew they'd finally learned. Some lessons cost a lifetime. I just refused to pay for them with mine.